Yo, what up, brothers? What's up? It's the director. Chargers fans, we got a fun one for you guys today, revolving around getting to know our rivals in the AFC West, beginning with the Broncos. We're going to kind of do a comparison video of what these different players and their matchups are going to be versus the Denver Broncos and how the Chargers may fare in the 2020 season with two new lineups that honestly look pretty fresh in comparison to the 2020 year. Guys, before we get started, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this content, the small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps out a lot. 16,000 subs and growing, guys, and I have you guys to thank for it. Let's get started with this video. All right, guys. This upcoming year in the 2020 season, Week 11 is when we're going to be facing the Denver Broncos for the first time in Denver, and then Week 16 we'll see them at home. It should be pretty interesting. So what I'd like to do is break down pretty much all of the highlighted players of the Denver Broncos and kind of tell you how I think they might fare against the Chargers defense and offense this upcoming season. So we'll take a look first at their quarterback, Drew Locke. Drew Locke was pretty interesting last year. Only played one game versus us. 18 out of 28 completions for 134 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception with no sacks. And that's probably the most interesting thing about Drew Locke to me. I don't know if he was able to evade Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram, but it's kind of interesting to me that they were did not allow us to sack Drew Locke that one time we did play him. But I do think that our pass rush will be a little bit more improved this season with the additions of some of our free agents. But Drew Locke, I don't know, man. He could be good. He could be bad. You never know. I just feel like, there's something there we have to pay attention to. But at the same time, he is kind of a developmental developmental quarterback, just like we have in a guy like Justin Herbert. So that's kind of a wait and see situation. Next up, we have got running back Melvin Gordon. All of us very familiar with Melvin Gordon. We know what he's put up. We've seen in the last few years. He can be good. He can also be underwhelming. Going into a new system, I don't know, man. They may work him into the ground, but, in 12 games played last year, 162 carries, he totaled 612 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 fumbles, and a 3.8 yards per average or yards per carry. So I don't know, man. When it comes to Melvin Gordon, I think there's going to be a bit of a grudge. There may be a revenge game element to it too, where I think maybe one of those games he does pop off, but at the same time, not too sure, dude. I would honestly, if I was a betting man, say that the Chargers rush defense has definitely improved. It's going to be a lot harder for a guy like Melvin Gordon to pound through that line. And he's going to be mainly focused, or his main matchup is probably going to be focusing his main assignment with Kenneth Murray, our new rookie linebacker out of Oklahoma. So I think that's going to be a pretty fun matchup to see. I also do think that maybe Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, some of those guys get in there for a few stops versus Melvin Gordon. Next up, we've got Philip Lindsay, their other halfback. Again, kind of the same assignments. I'm going to have him matched up against a guy like Denzel Perryman. A bit more of a utility back, definitely involved in the pass game a little bit more. Smaller, scrappy kind of back, but I do think that he may struggle versus our new, run-stopping linebacker core. I do think it's interesting to see what his potential is. He's a good back. It's kind of weird to me that they brought in Melvin Gordon, but I think they're trying to mimic what we had last year with Melvin Gordon and our, utility back in Austin Eckler. So who knows? Next up, we've got their wide receiver core starting with Courtland Sutton. I think Courtland Sutton is a tall, sure-handed, good development wide receiver. I do think that he did kind of break out last year, maybe just a little bit, maybe not like a full-blown top 10 wide receiver in the league breakout, but in a way where you have to respect him. You have to respect his game. You have to respect his style. Definitely possession kind of receiver. And if I were a betting man, I would say we probably, for the most of the game, lining him up opposite of Casey Hayward. Casey Hayward, definitely one of the better cornerbacks in the league, and I do think he's up to the task. I do think it's going to be a tough game for both of these guys, but in the end, I think that Casey Hayward has the edge over Courtland Sutton. Next, our other wide receiver, Jerry Judy. This one's more of a wild card. We don't know much about Jerry Judy in the pros. We know he was very, very good in Alabama. A lot of people comparing his game to Odell Beckham Jr. of the Cleveland Browns. So who knows? Maybe he goes out there and absolutely shines. What I would love for the Chargers to do is to use their secret weapon against this new rookie wide receiver in our own Chris Harris Jr. Send him out there to shut down the new rookie wide receiver. Make sure that he doesn't, pop off versus the Chargers. And I think that would be a good revenge game element for Chris Harris Jr. versus the Broncos. Line him up opposite of Jerry Judy. Make sure he doesn't pop off. I think that would be really fun to see. Next up, their other wide receiver, KJ Hamler. He's a fast guy out of Penn State. Very, very fast player. Player comp, I would say maybe more of like a D.D. Westbrook. But again, 2 rookie wide receivers versus the very intimidating defensive back core of the Chargers. I do have to give the edge to the Chargers. Very experienced, very, talented defensive back core. I think it's going to be really tough for these rookie wide receivers, to shine in these games. He's going to be matched up, in my opinion, hopefully, versus a guy like Desmond King a lot. And again, a rookie wide receiver versus a veteran, or I should say an experienced player like Desmond King. I don't know if he's going to get a lot of yards versus him. There's also other guys that could play the slot, but at the same time, I think Desmond King is more than up to the task. Next up, their tight end, another receiving weapon out here. Noah Fant is pretty good, dude. I think that he's definitely a lot like Courtland Sutton. The back half of his season last year looked really, really nice, and I think that he's definitely going to look really good again this year. So I would say we do match him up with Derwin James as much as we can. Make sure he doesn't get free. Make sure, he doesn't become the receiving target versus us because, again, our linebackers are pretty good, but maybe not the best in coverage outside of Drew Tranquil. And I do think that you put, a guy like Derwin James up against him, he's going to disappear off of the face of the earth. So I like that matchup quite a bit. And again, Derwin James, a versatility player. You can put him anywhere. I think we'll figure it out versus Noah Fant. Next up, their offensive line. This is where things get interesting, dudes. I like the matchups we got versus the Broncos via the offensive line and our defensive line. We'll start, on the left side with Garrett Bowles. Definitely, he's got some talent there. Came into the draft a little bit late. He's okay, but I do think he's going to struggle. I think his primary assignment is going to be Melvin Ingram, and I think he's going to have a bit of a problem with that. At the same time, though, we got to tell ourselves that we didn't get a sack on Drew Locke last year. Maybe we don't again. Maybe there is something there with Garrett Bowles, but at the same time, I don't know, man. I think that's a good matchup on our side there. Next up, we got left guard Dalton Reisner and center Lloyd Cushenberry, who again is a rookie. This offense definitely kind of revamped during the draft. I think both these players are pretty decent. We don't know as much yet about Lloyd Cushenberry, but Dalton Reisner is okay. I would say that these guys are going to be eating blocks. I think they're going to be sharing assignment, trying to stop our new offseason acquisition as well in Linval Joseph. I think that's going to be really nice. That's what I love about Linval Joseph this year. I think he's going to cause the offensive line to double team him quite a bit. And what's that going to do? That's going to free guys like Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram off the edge. So I think a guy like Linval Joseph was very important because I do think he's going to have to be double teamed quite a bit because of his size and his ability to get through. Next up, they have another offseason acquisition in right guard, Graham Glasgow. He's actually a pretty talented guard in my opinion. He's mainly going to be facing up against our second defensive tackle, which could be Jerry Tillery. It could be a guy like Justin Jones, Damian Square. I would say we probably see Jerry Tillery out there more than often than not this year, but I do think that Gladskow's up to the challenge, and we still don't know what we have in a guy like Tillery. Next up, and what's funny too is when you look at our opponents and their moves during the offseason, you kind of understand what they're trying to accomplish. They went out and they paid a buttload for Jawan James, right? They paid for Jawan James because they got to play this guy twice a year, Joey Bosa. And Joey Bosa absolutely he's the quarterback eater of the Chargers, the cornerstone of our defense. And I feel like they definitely went and picked up a guy like Jawan James in order to try and slow down a guy like Joey Bosa. In my opinion, the edge still is very much so in Joey Bosa's corner, but they definitely made some improvements in trying to slow him down. Let's move on over to defense, guys. This is where things get really dicey for the Chargers. The Broncos have a very, very, very nasty pass rushing duo in Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. So let's start up on the right side, in my opinion here. You got yourself Bradley Chubb out there, edge rusher. I think the biggest concern I probably have on this team right now is he's going to be going up against, a guy like Trey Pipkins, which is not great. Trey Pipkins, he had some improvement over the second half of the year last year too, but I think, that matchup definitely has to go to Bradley Chubb. Definitely, he's a little banged up and stuff, but he's a very, very talented, edge rusher. So I don't know, man. I'm not feeling great about that matchup right there. Next up, right next to him, which is kind of blowing my mind too, you got Jerel Casey. And I think the league forgot about Jerel Casey, dude. He is a very talented defensive end. He's a running back eater. Like, he's a machine against the run. So that doesn't, pan very well for a guy like Austin Eckler, maybe even, a Justin Jones. But I don't know, man, or Justin Jackson, sorry. It's going to be very, very difficult. I think Jerel Casey still has a lot in the tank. Kind of an under the radar signing by the Broncos this year, and I'm actually pretty intimidated by that. Next up, and he's going to be going up against Forrest Lamp, so keep that in mind too. I think that's his primary assignment right there. That's not great. Next up, defensive tackle Mike Purcell. He's okay. He's going to be going up against Mike Pouncey. In that instance, I'm going to say Pouncey probably has the edge on him. And then right next to him is Shelby Harris, the other defensive end opposite of Jerel Casey. Again, he's fine. He's okay. He's going to be going up against Trey Turner, though. And again, I have to give the edge to Trey Turner, absolutely. And then finally, off of the left side, this is where we get really scared, dude. We got, Von Miller out there. And again, Von Miller, he's a one-man wrecking crew. You really have to pay a lot of attention to him. And again, like I said, with the Broncos going and getting Jawan James, it's kind of funny to see, the parallel universes here. The Chargers going out and getting Brian Bulaga, trying to slow down a guy like Von Miller. And again, I still have to give the edge to Von Miller. Brian Bulaga is a great right tackle. He should slow him down, but Von Miller is one of the best in the league to do it right now. Next up, let's move on to their linebackers. Linebackers a little bit tricky. I think, you got who's out there. Who are these guys? Alexander Johnson, who was actually pretty decent last year, and then Todd Davis, who's okay as well. Maybe they're assigned to, running against the running game or something like that. Austin Eckler, Justin Jackson. But those guys are okay. I would say maybe they're not like the standout players of this defense. The standouts on their defensive backs, though, AJ Bouye. Again, another offseason acquisition. I would say he's probably going to be assigned to a guy like Keenan Allen quite a bit, but we're going to go through all the defensive backs here real quick, and then I'll show you guys, the Chargers or wide receivers they have to worry about. So AJ Bouye, who's definitely a seasoned veteran. He's very good. A little bit old in the tooth, but very still a lot left in the tank there. And then who's this? Another rookie cornerback in Michael Ajamudia. I'm sorry, guys. It's a new guy in here. I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but he is a rookie. He looks pretty decent, but again, he is a rookie going up against a very talented Chargers wide receiver core. And then Bryce Callahan, they picked up from the Bears. So this Denver Broncos looks a lot different this year, man. Again, they're going to have to be going up against the talents of Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. We got a couple of new guys in there as far as rookies with KJ Hill and Joe Reed. So it's going to be a pretty difficult matchup, I think, for those cornerbacks. Again, they're very green. The only guy in there I'm kind of worried about is AJ Bouye. So I think the Chargers really need to attack him through the air this year, especially since we have now their best cornerback in Chris Harris Jr. And then finally, I think the pair of safeties you got back there are pretty respectable. Kareem Jackson and I think Bouye both played together in Texas, I think. And they're both very good, man. They're going to have to worry about, specifically Jackson, is going to have to worry about a guy like Hunter Henry back there. I think Hunter Henry definitely has the edge on him. But Justin Simmons, he's definitely the guy I'm most worried about in their secondary. Very, very talented safety back there. And I think, we're going to have to maybe try to avoid throwing his way a little bit. But other than that, guys, that is your Denver Broncos we have to worry about in the 2020 season. Honestly, if I were going to say, how are we going to do against them, I think we do split with them this year. I think we do, get one win versus them, but maybe they do take us down, maybe in Denver at our away game this season. So what do you guys think versus the Broncos? How do you think we're going to fare? What are the players that you're most worried about that we should pay the most attention to? And how would you attack the Denver Broncos in the 2020 season? Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.